This being episode 1, I could talk at length about who I am, what my academic background is, what I'm doing, and what my goals are here. But I don't wanna. This isn't a job interview, and you have better things to do, so let's just jump right in. Let's talk about lore. It's in the channel's name, might as well explain what I mean. This isn't dedicated to cataloging the activities of the evil android from Star Trek, as fun as that would be. I mean the concept of lore, which I know can come off as a bit jargony. When trying to understand something jargony, it can be helpful to work from a basic definition. The Oxford English Dictionary gives a number of definitions, one of which is the following. The idea here seems to be that lore is anything learned, or a collection of things learned about a specific subject. That's not wrong, but it lacks a level of depth and has too much breadth. Things that are referred to as lore, fairy lore, plant lore, folklore, etc., are, of course, things learned, but they tend to be things not formally taught, things passed down by word of mouth, or things isolated by specific areas, rather than being universals, like mathematics. We wouldn't really say mathematical lore to refer to the entire body of mathematics, though an archaic usage does apply to the sciences in general. But we would use folklore that way. Lore doesn't necessarily mean just folklore, though. The idea is basically stories, ideas, and beliefs that circulated widely and became embedded in a culture's fabric before being written down. So this includes folklore and fairy tales and mythology, as well as general beliefs about the supernatural and natural properties of plants, animals, minerals, etc. It also includes religion. Religious stories and ideas were often transmitted orally before being written down, and they often extend well beyond the ideas and practices espoused by the local clergy. Lore is an old word, but it's fairly uncommon in English. Usage peaked around 1575 and was never high to begin with. Usage has been increasing somewhat since the mid-80s, which I attribute partly to the rising popularity of video games. Lore has almost become a synonym for world development, backstory, or canon. Ever heard someone say something like, "in the game's lore"? That's fine. Perfectly acceptable usage and possibly a good example of how words evolve. But it's not what it means in the context of this channel. Really, you can attach the word lore to almost any noun, and it makes sense. Gem lore, fairy lore, plant lore, star lore, etc. These refer to the collective body of informal knowledge about these topics, each of which contains many separate categories, like English versus Irish plant lore, for example, and no categories are held to be superior or inferior to another. So we could talk about English fairy lore, and that might directly contradict something from Scotland. Which one's correct? Both. And neither. These ideas aren't things that are tested against each other and form some sort of canonical scripture. One isn't right while the other is wrong. That's not how it works. They can exist together in tension under the umbrella of fairy lore because they represent specific cultures at specific times, and lore within the same culture can change over time, with no time period really taking precedence as correct. Rather, the lore reflects the cultural understandings at the time it was popular. There are lots of different kinds of lores even within the same topic, subtopic, geographic range, or time period, and we accept them all as they are, rather than declaring one right. That's the idea here. To gather lore of all types and analyze and understand without putting any on a pedestal. Comparing and contrasting different bits of lore on the same topic is normal, and helps to understand both of them, but neither is better nor worse than the other, and none of this implies value judgment. That's what I'm doing here. I'm a lore cat, a log. And we have a very interesting world to explore. Let's get started. Let's see what's out there. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.